Girl left me for a richer guy. The wedding apparently was a shit show fiction. This happened many years ago, but I have been wanting to tell this for a while. Back in the happy-go-lucky days of the late 1990s, I had a college girlfriend, Courtney, and like many a young man, I thought she was the one. That turned out very inaccurate. Courtney decided to start seeing someone else, Mike. However, she neglected to tell me about it and started seeing Mike while we were still a couple. I knew of him, mostly that his dad was rich and he was destined to follow in dad's footsteps and attend Harvard Law and work at a prestigious law firm, which he ultimately did from what little I have heard over the years, but that is for another day. Upon graduation, all three of us were in the same year, Courtney and Mike decided to break the news to me that they were engaged. When I asked very loudly why, Courtney just shrugged and said she needed a husband with prospects, translation, money. And to add the cherry on top, the job that I was offered upon graduation announced there was corporate restructuring and the position had been eliminated. So I did what any recent college graduate with whose job plans disappeared and whose girlfriend just ditched him for a richer guy. I joined the Army. I thought I would do this Army thing for a few years before figuring something out. But by the time I finished with OCS, Ranger School, and assigned to a regiment, it was September 2001. I am sure you can guess how busy those years became. A year later, as my first tour in Afghanistan was winding down, I received a DVD from Jamie, a college friend who also knew Courtney and Mike, and was well aware of what happened between us. A note with the DVD said, "Please watch, you will love it." The DVD was their wedding. It looked like a high-end venue, and the bride was looking every bit as beautiful as I remembered. Things were going as expected until the minister said, "The speak now part," and that was when the gates of hell opened. A man stood, someone I did not know, and demanded, how could Courtney go through with this? Courtney's face went white and pleading when she saw him. The man, who I dubbed Rick, wanted to know how Courtney could do this him. Welcome to the club. Then Rick dropped the bomb. Courtney was carrying their child. The DVD ended with the parents of the not-wedded couple pulled their respective kids aside and left the venue. It did not take a genius to figure out that the wedding was called off. And Jamie's note was right. I did love it. It made my day to see the woman who carelessly broke my heart so publicly embarrassed. I showed it to my comrades who found it hilarious. Over a year later, this time in Iraq, that DVD would provide some joy on days when shit had really hit the fan. I only heard bits and pieces of what happened after the ill-fated wedding. As I said earlier, Mike did go on to be a lawyer and apparently did well. Courtney got a job and went on with her life. I can only guess that they wound up with the other person, or at least raised their kids. Beyond that, I know little and care even less. As for me, I stayed in the Army. I would return to Afghanistan and Iraq more than once. I would serve in places I am still not allowed to discuss and deal with enemies who made bin Laden look like Gandhi. But those are other stories. Story 2. My father has lived a double life for nearly 15 years. He's been given an ultimatum and now seems unable to decide which family he wants to be with. As a 17-year-old, I really don't feel like I should be this involved in this drama. The tension is only growing in the house because my dad keeps trying to negotiate with my mom. I don't know what it is. He can't see that there's no way mom is going to relent on this. My mom is demanding that he no longer makes trips to Reno and that he goes no contact with Annika and the kids. My dad confirmed that he had paternity tests done a long time ago and they are his. So I get it. He doesn't want to cut off his children. This is one of those times when being the oldest really sucks. My parents are trying to keep this whole situation secret. My siblings don't even know, so who do my parents both talk to about it? And most of the time, it's just them asking me if the other one said something. I'm finding a lot of reasons to be out of the house, which is kind of what led to the other day. I came home late, like 1 a.m. late. I entered through the garage and found my dad in there crying. He was having a total breakdown. A drunken mental breakdown from the smell of it too. He had his gun out, and I'm pretty sure he was thinking about ending it. When I talked to him, he just said, "I can't do it. I can't decide." He begins rambling about how he loves both my mom and Annika, that he doesn't want to abandon his kids. He wishes it could all just go back to the way it was, just totally dropping all of this on me. I took the gun and unloaded it. I sat down next to my dad and said, "Dad, you can't have both. If you keep fucking around like this, you won't have either. Drop this other woman now." He started yelling at me that it wasn't that simple. That's when it got revealed. His marriage to my mom, which came first, wasn't real. Annika was not his fiancée. She was his actual legal wife. My parents got married, they had the whole big wedding and everything. My dad never had the marriage license filed. Legally speaking, they aren't married. When I asked my dad why the hell he would do that, he just said, I don't know. Turns out my dad started dating my mom, and Annika the same week. He has always hidden it from my mom. Annika was supposed to just be fling or like a long-distance romance. He said, their love grew. She gave him the first ultimatum 15 years ago, and that's why he married her, to show her he was serious. When I asked him why he faked his wedding with mom, he just said, I didn't want to lose your mother, but I just wasn't ready. I was done at this point and told him to, just decide then. I don't even give a fuck. Either make this right to mom or move to fucking Reno, but you only get one family either way. I can't, he said this softly as his head hung, leave the gun. He was serious. As much as I hate my father right now, I don't want him to die. I knew at that moment I was going to have to help him. I put my hands on his shoulders and he looked up at me. Dad, I will help you decide. Don't do anything stupid. Let me think. I need 1 week. Promise me you won't do anything stupid for 1 week. He nodded to me. The next morning, I asked him if he remembered last night, and he said he did. I told him I needed some space to think. I'd help him, but I was going to stay with my best friend Seth for a week. Seth went to the same prep school as me growing up, but his dad took a job in Atlanta last year. Told my dad I needed money. When he asked how much, I said very confidently, just let me in the safe. Obviously, my dad uses banks, but he also likes to keep a good amount of cash on hand in his safe. He just told me the combination and walked off. I took $3,000 out, told my mom what I was doing, and she told me to be careful. I got in my car and began the 6.5-hour drive. I've got any idea of what I need to do to save my family. The drive will definitely help me think through everything. Story 3. Our hero was not a hero after all. When I was a teenager, I made friends with a guy named Doug. We started hanging out together, and he had friends who lived in an apartment complex. They would have small parties, and all the neighbors were cool with it. It was a really small complex with only 4 apartments, so everyone knew their neighbors. A few guys were over 21, so we could score drinks, and the neighbors would often come over. A new neighbor moved in who seemed like a really cool guy. He went by the name Blue. He was a massive guy. He looked like a pro football player. He was really nice to us, and he often had pot and free drinks, so we got to know him pretty well. We asked him if lifted weights to become so big. He told us he was in the state penitentiary for several years on a manslaughter charge. We left it at that and never probed any deeper. One night we were hanging out, and he invited us over for some drinks. When we got into his apartment, there were 2 new guys we did not know. They were also really big and scary looking. After a few drinks, the 2 new guys asked Doug and I if we wanted to buy a kilo of smoke. We told them we have no money and were not interested. These 2 guys kept pushing us to make calls and gather up some money from friends. Eventually, Blue told them to back off and said these guys were friends and to drop it. We got bad vibes from the situation, excused ourselves, and quickly left. The next day, we learned that they had just got out of the penitentiary, and that's how they knew Blue. As soon as we left, the 2 guys decided they should attack us and take wherever we had. They headed out looking for us. Lucky for us, Blue stopped them as they were heading down the stairs and beat the holy crap out of both of them. Blue messed them up pretty bad and told them they were not welcome there any longer. For the following year or so, Blue was our hero as well as our local drug suppler. He made pot pipes from of deer antlers and sold them on the street right by the beach. He made a little wood kiosk where he sold all his handmade items. He was a good artist, and we would wave and say hi every time we passed him when he was working on the street. For an unrelated circumstance of events, I was visiting the sheriff's office in Santa Cruz. My neighbor was the police chief of Santa Cruz at the time. When I came into his office, I see a big picture on his wall just like you see in the movies when they create a whodunit crime story wall. The picture is Blue, our hero. I asked the police chief, "Who is that guy?" pretending I did not know him. I am thinking that I hope they don't have surveillance of Doug and I buying pot from him. The police chief says, "That's Richard Summerholder. We just arrested him for killing 2 women in Aptos." A few days later, it hit the news. We find out that 2 girls were murdered. I learned later that there was a party in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and Blue offered to give them a ride to the party. Per the news stories, he asked for some sexual favors, and they refused, so he killed them. He was so big that when his trial started, they shackled both his hands and feet. The Santa Cruz Sentinel newspaper still has the article in their history files. I hope you enjoyed these Reddit stories. Remember to like and subscribe, and come back for more.